What's up, man?
What's happening?
Mr. Luis Martinez.
Finally meet you in person.
I know. Thank you so much for
What a
coming
pleasure.
on.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you. And
Listen,
thank Daniel.
right? Dan is the man. You came highly recommended.
Well, that's great. Thank you. Thank you.
So, you are obviously not from Florida.
No.
And I want to talk about kind of where you came from, how long you've been doing this, and just your experience with music, the club scene, and all that.
Sure. Originally from Long Island, New York, and I was born in 1968.
Okay.
Precious times. But yeah, I've grew up in Bayshore and then Brentwood and high school in Brentwood, Long Island. I went to college upstate New York,
Okay.
but yeah, I lived there until 1999.
Now, do you know where Oceanside, Long Island is?
Oh yeah,
So I lived there for 3 months riding race horses at Belmont Park.
that's awesome.
Yeah. So I was just there for like
Nice.
quick minute.
Nice. That must have been a great experience.
Yeah, it was pretty fun to do at 17.
Yeah, Long Island's fun.
Yeah.
Get a little bit of both worlds over there.
So how'd you get into music?
My family, through generations, been in music. My great uncle, his name is Yomo Toro. He's pretty much played with every Latin band known to man for about 40 years. Very famous 12-string guitarist.
Oh wow.
And then
That's got to be hard to play, I would think.
yeah, his fingers. You don't even see his fingers. It's crazy.
Hmm.
Then from there, my uncle, my cousins, so everybody was into music. But for me, it was just that time I started really noticing all of that in about 1983. And then once I got into high school, 1985, I went to a homecoming and I saw the DJ playing, and I was like, I want to do that, So from then, it just blossomed.
Okay.
Nonstop. It's been quite a journey.
I feel like life is a journey, especially music. So you said your family's Latin.
Mm.
What ethnicity? Like where are you guys from?
Puerto Rican.
Okay, Puerto Rico.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm New Yorican. My family's from Puerto Rico, but I was born in New York.
Okay. All right. So you started off music in New York. What was it? Was it like I don't know, like was EDM a thing back then, or like what was it dance music?
Yeah, back then it was just the crossing over between live bands and electronic drums.
Okay.
You had your Depeche Mode was coming in. It was all the they called it Latin hip hop, but it was called freestyle back then. So you had all of your cover girls and Joyce Sims, all the big they call it Latin hip hop,
Okay.
breakdancing
Okay.
era. A little bit before that, it was really all rap music. Before that, and then it went into the freestyle. Then house broke through in about 83, 84, and it just progressed from there. The underground scene didn't start until like 88, 89, but you used to have to go to warehouses to hear that type of music. That's why they call it house music. It's short for warehouse.
Oh, I didn't know that.
So in Chicago, the only time you can hear that was at the warehouses.
Okay.
So it was called warehouse music, but for short, they named it house music.
All right, folks. So we just learned
Trivia.
We learned something new. Vinyl. Did you do the whole vinyl thing?
Oh yeah.
What was that like?
I acquired my uncle's record collection right just when I started DJing in '85. So that started it, and then I hooked up with a couple of guys who were teaching me the ropes on DJing and would take me to the record stores in New York. So from there, I just used to hit 2 or 3 different record stores every weekend to buy records. And back then, it was quite the budget. It's not like today. You could just get music anywhere. You have to invest. Good $200-$300 a week sometimes.
So would you say for the guys that started out on vinyl, was that more challenging versus how it's done today?
Yes,
Okay.
definitely. Plus it's an actual product. You don't want to, like, today you can share your music with somebody. Back then you're not giving away a piece of vinyl that you bought. You know what I mean? And there was no real piracy back then either, because you're actually selling and buying a physical unit. Now everybody could download stuff for free.
Yeah.
So it's really changed the whole game.
What were the warehouse parties like? I've heard through friends that New York had a really interesting underground club scene, and that if you had to be like taken to the hospital, they actually had to like remove you from the club, and you couldn't have the guys that do the light shows. Like, can you tell me more about that? Because I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, it was really started in like there's a lot of industrial parks in Long Island.
Okay.
So there were always abandoned warehouses, and we would find ones that were empty for so long that you would have to get a lawnmower and cut through to make a way, and we'd bring generators, and it was all word of mouth back then. So we used
no
to,
Facebook, no
No.
MySpace.
Yeah, you would just have to know what number to call at what time to find out the directions, and you would go, and it would just go all night long. And most of the time we wouldn't get busted, but sometimes we didn't. But back then the cops were, as long as we weren't doing nothing that stupid, but everybody does stupid stuff. But they would normally just break it up, and but sometimes it was trouble. But yeah, it was always stuff like that. And then back in 91, 92 was when a warehouse called Caffeine opened up, and that was where it really hit. That's when all the techno, and it was like a Limelight back then. Limelight was in Manhattan, but it was mostly all techno, and Caffeine was the Limelight of Long Island. I would say, as far as like vibe wise.
Okay.
So that's where I started going, and the DJs welcomed me in, and it just blew up from there. I mean, started playing New York, and I got an agent, started traveling, and yeah.
Have you traveled internationally with your music?
Yeah, I went to 14 different countries, mostly back in the 90s because of the booking agent. But yeah, 14 different countries in 8 years.
So what was the best country you played in?
I would say probably Barcelona.
Oh,
Barcelona
okay.
is really nice, and also Tokyo, the Lemon Club.
I was not expecting you to say Tokyo.
Yeah, Ibiza is always nice, but it's always been commercialized. Everybody is Ibiza. But,
So I'm glad you touched on Ibiza, because I thought that's what you were gonna say. But no, so okay, so you had Barcelona.
Plus, it's been a long time since I've been out there. Things have changed over there. But back then, it was, Amsterdam and London, Ministry of Sound.
Okay.
That was really a good experience as well. But I mean, think about it. Just going to countries and playing. It's always, wherever you are. It's always an experience. But
do you think the crowds are different versus Americans and Europeans? And if so, how are the crowds different?
Definitely a difference. Back then, Europe was big on hard techno, harder techno. It was one extreme to the next. It was either hard techno or more disco, soulful house.
Okay.
But most of the places I played were more harder stuff. So it was, these people would just go.
You must have seen some wild stuff.
They had one gear, and it was go.
Okay.
It was the hours were different over there. It's just totally different scene. And over here, they would say the same thing for us, because we were playing hard stuff, but totally different than what they were playing. I mean, back then, you would go to Germany and they were playing Goa trance, and you're talking 180 beats per minute, and seeing these people, but it was a scene. You
Okay.
know. Today it's Tressa. It's called in Berlin, I think. Huge warehouse, and they rock a lot of that.
So you're like the
Hard
OG. You've
I'm an old guy.
well, I didn't say old, but like
I don't- no,
you're
I
the
am.
original
I
gangster.
am. I am. And it's been a long journey. I mean, this is pretty much all I do. I own a internet radio station. I just opened up my own label.
Okay.
I just opened up my own entertainment company, so that's going to be the website is being worked on now, and yeah, just pushing along.
So what was the most challenging country you played in?
London.
Why?
It was mostly like Ministry of Sound is like the place. It's there's a place called Printworks.
Yes. They closed
It's
it for
kinda-
renovations.
yes.
For 3 years, they're going to renovate it.
So it was kind of like that, a little bit smaller,
Mm-hmm.
but you're way up, like 20 feet in the air. So when you're playing over there, you have in your head, this is what I'm playing next, and you already know how they're going to react. You know, so you're waiting for that moment. So when you drop it, they react. So that place, you would just see the wave of people with their hands in the air because of the way the sound travels. You know, it was a narrow place, so if you're in front, right in front of the speakers, you're dancing to the beat, but when you're way back there, the delay of sound is different from being up front. So you see everybody, it's like a wave, and when you're up that high, it's just like, wow.
I often hear that back in the day, nobody looked at the DJ. People were just dancing and interacting with everybody else. Do you find that to be true?
Yes. In New York, there was a club called Roseland. There was one called the Tunnel. Even the Limelight, it was always up above.
Mm-hmm.
You didn't really see them, and if you did, it was far away. But you always knew who you were going to check out. That was the thing. But there was no intimacy like that because it was always it gets distracting.
Okay.
You know, everybody's trying to say hi to you, which is great. You know, you love feeling the love, but when you're in that zone, you know, you don't want to be bothered, and that's why that was like that. Now it's all boiler room style, and you know, it's all about the DJ focus, which, you know, it's cool.
So explain
You know,
boiler room style to some of us.
Boiler room is like 360. DJs in the middle, and
Okay.
the crowd is all around them. So, you know, it's great. You know, a lot of people do it. I don't see it like done on a regular basis at venues, but it's something that's pretty cool. You know, it's I don't know why they call it boiler room though.
I don't know
Right?
either. I don't know either. I know an artist, Fred again, does a lot of boiler room sets.
Mm-hmm.
And it just seems like in a really small, compact space, and everybody's like dancing and sweating profusely, and there's no room to move.
It's cool, you know, but I wouldn't do it all the time though.
How did you balance nights and days? Because that's something I struggle with. I mean, I don't spin. I only, come here and do vocals, or hey, we might be doing a podcast. I don't know how some of these men, women, children, teenagers, because some of you are, I don't know how people balance staying up all night playing shows. And there are some people here in Tampa Bay, and they're playing 4 or 5 nights a week. So how does somebody deal with that?
Well, I mean, me, it's mostly 3 to 4 nights a week, but what I do, my Monday for work is Thursdays. Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I'm off Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. So I'll sleep as much as I can Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, because I know what I'm up for. Because in the morning I have my daughter. During the day I produce music in the studio for labels. So it's just scheduling yourself. You definitely have to make time for you. Make time for the family. If I used to work, I was a chef full time, and I was working at a club 2 nights a week. And I would get out of the club at 3 o'clock in the morning, go straight to my job, and I would have to start at 6. So I would sleep in my car for a few hours and then do that whole thing. And but it's when you burn the candle at both ends, it does a lot to you. And I've lost and so many relationships. I've broken so many hearts, but it's what I do, and right now I have a woman who supports me all the way through. I have a beautiful daughter. Right now I couldn't be happier. It's just right now everything happens for a reason, and
Yeah.
I guess you season yourself enough to know when is the right time to do things.
Did you struggle? And I feel like it's always easy to say we think somebody's doing stuff they shouldn't be doing, or oh, maybe they're using. But, did you struggle with the party lifestyle and then having to be able to perform not partying? There's some really commercialized DJs and they kind of brand themselves as they're always on a bender. And if you had that experience, what was it like? And then how did you learn to do it sober?
Missing days. So, especially when I traveled, you have the jet lag and time is all different, and you're going to parties that people are paying to see you, that you're from another country. So what are they going to do? Hey, here you go. And you would lose days. I would, what day is it? Type stuff, and really, really not healthy at all. You don't really want to be partying when you're performing either, because you never know who's listening. You have to treat every gig like it's your last, because you never know who's listening. So it's you can party, everybody does their thing, but the time and place for it,
That's great. That's great advice. I think for kind of, any profession you might be in.
Yeah, that goes for anything. Absolutely.
Wow.
Yeah.
Do you think you've lost opportunities because maybe
Sure.
you weren't in the right mind?
Mm-hmm. Many. Yeah. You got to hang out with your best friend. Moderation. That's your boy. You hang out with moderation, you know when and when not to do things.
Okay. That's fair.
Got to be responsible. If you're in it to look cool is one thing, but when you're in it for the passion and this is what you do, look at it different,
So I like how you say, the passion and this is maybe what, some of us want to do, but how do you keep that passion? Do you feel that this industry is luck? Do you feel that it's a numbers game and that it's not how many times you fall, it's how many times you get back up, because eventually people are going to tamper off?
Mm-hmm. I've been, especially down here, I've been down here since '99 in Florida, consistently working, always gigging and production, and I've seen so many people on their way up, and I've seen them right back on their way down, just because they're in it for the wrong things, and your name and your word is everything, and that goes for any profession. But nowadays, especially the way social media is and how people take things wrong, and it's really, really imperative for you to just be yourself. Stick to the game, be true about it, because in the end, you're the one who's going to be there waving still.
Yeah.
And fortunately, I've learned that the hard way. But
that's the best way to learn sometimes, is the hard way, right?
Yeah, but it's really, that's the only advice I can give anyone.
So what made you move from New York to the Florida scene?
Well, I came down in '97 for my cousin's wedding. He flew me down to DJ the reception. So I took 2 weeks off and I came down, and he lived in downtown Dunedin, which is by Clearwater Beach.
Love Dunedin.
And back then, what is now Club Blur used to be called 1470 West.
Okay.
And it was a straight up gay club. And
Dunedin had gay clubs?
it was all gay. It was a gay club.
We're not discriminating.
No,
I'm just shocked.
no.
I'm just shocked that
And-
Dunedin had
And
that.
for me, that was heaven, because that's all I normally played at in New York was gay clubs.
Okay.
They know how to party.
Okay.
So my cousin's reception was at that club. So I went there, and the club opened to the public at 9. So we were there from 5 to 9, but we could still stay if people can, the public could come in.
Okay.
So I met the DJ that was there when I was playing, and we just vibed right away. And the whole they were open 4 nights a week. The whole 2 weeks that I was down here, I went over there and played with her. So I got in with the owners pretty good. They used to fly me down to play.
Oh, wow.
So 2 years later, I said, screw this, I'm moving down.
Mm-hmm.
The lifestyle was great. I already had a job set. So within 3 months, had a residency in Ybor City. I was on a AM radio station playing techno music. I was in magazines. I mean, just nonstop, just kept going because it was a lot of break beats down here back then. I was introducing Florida with house. So that crossover was just beginning. So I came down at the right time.
Okay.
That's what happened.
How do you feel about other artists lifting other artists up and supporting one another? Have you found that? Do you see that less and less, or are you seeing it? Like, how was it back then? Because I feel it's a little bit dog eat dog right now.
Yeah.
But again, I don't spin. What I do is very different. But the stuff I see, on social media and sometimes even in person, it's super cutthroat. And are we really as artists supporting one another? I mean, what's your...
Well, me, I'm open arms. I try to vibe with everyone. I'm not just with any clique or anything. I try to work with everyone. And being down here so long, I pretty much know everyone. So it is very cliquey. It is territorial. It's tough. But everyone should always support each other. I do. I get support from others as well, but it's always going to be that avenue. Always. And for years and years, I've been trying to promote peace, love, unity, respect, because that's all it takes for everyone to coexist. And when it comes to the music, we all listen to music. Why don't we all listen together?
Right.
But it's just a lot of good and bad. People in it for certain things, and just a lot of. Put it this way: the music business is the most corrupt next to drug dealing and churches. It really is.
It's a powerful statement. I feel that the scene used to be a nice little hidden gem, right? Where like you knew you could go somewhere, you could let loose, you knew you were safe, and you knew you were just gonna have a good time. And now I feel, and I'm not saying this to bash this community, I think it's great that house and techno and EDM is on the rise, but now I feel like it's like the best kept secrets out. Kind of like Tampa was the best kept secret in Florida, and now everybody's moved here. It's so expensive. So even us people that have been here for 10 plus years, it's hard to get ahead.
Yeah, it's.
Do you think EDM's kind of been like that mainstream commercialized? And do you think it's good? Do you think it's bad?
Well, I mean, a lot of the EDM, electronic dance music, is mostly considered festival music, and then you have your underground. So EDM is mostly stuff you would hear on the radio or Sirius XM, or underground is music you don't hear on the radio. You have to go to certain events, So I was fortunate enough to see the rave scene when it was a baby. So it was all peace and love, We used to, like earlier I said about the warehouses we used to break in. We would break into those, and people like Frankie Bones would come out of Max. People, high-end DJs and producers would come to these things and just stay there till 6, 7 in the morning.
Oh my gosh.
So it definitely evolved into what it is now, and they call it festivals and whatnot. But what happened was it got commercialized really, really big, which is good too, because the underground scene, stuff that's not on the radio, artists to that extent aren't going to make as much money as stuff that is on the radio and people would buy or subscribe, so it's good in a sense for the industry.
So I was very, very recently, like a few weeks ago, introduced to underground, like hard techno, like super, super fast. And yeah, like, and this group was like, you have to come to a show with us. They're so different from your house shows. I call myself, a house princess. So I'm excited to go to, like, I don't want to say like a real techno rave, but to see what that underground experience is like. I don't know if I'm gonna be able to handle it, but
well, you'll be just fine. You'll be all right.
But it's so interesting to just have gotten introduced to another genre
culture,
of EDM.
Yeah.
And I'm so thankful for it, just because it's like, oh wow, like maybe I do need to broaden my horizons besides house.
Always. I would definitely agree. Yeah, techno and the house, your Chris Lakes and your tech house producers as opposed to your techno producers, totally different vibe. Still the same love, but people really party and
people get their cardio in.
They do, and it's a select crowd too.
Yeah,
different culture. Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm excited to have
That's
that
cool.
experience hopefully
awesome.
soon. And have you been to? Did you get into the Miami scene while you were down here?
Yeah, but it was extremely territorial.
Really?
Yeah, really territorial. It's yeah, you have to really be known, and just like some cliques in Tampa don't let anyone in. They have their own thing. They don't need nobody. It's just this is it. And in Miami, it has a lot to do with that, but plus also the way the clubs control their entertainment. So a lot of promoters have their own DJs.
Okay.
So when they go to, like, let's say Space, they'll say, hey, I want to rent this, throw a party such and such date. Here's $20,000 down, and I'm gonna bring my own DJs in. So that's normally how it works.
Oh,
there's always a resident DJ,
okay,
or two or three. They'll be there as well, but for the most part, when they have those in season, because Florida is very seasonal. So when it's in season, and
talk about that, because I don't understand that.
You have your snowbirds that come down. When it's winter here, people go from up north come down.
Right.
So that's more tourist season. So you'll get a big rise at the hotels and nightlife, and then when it's slow season is more when it's August here, and we don't even want to be here. You know what I mean? So that's a different season. So they would keep the residents at the clubs playing in rotation, and sometimes hire once a month, bring in something. But yeah, Florida's notorious for seasonal work.
Okay. I don't know. I love Florida. Like, it can be hotter than Hades down here, and I would still be sitting in this room without the AC on. Yeah, Miami is interesting. I've been to Space once. It was an interesting experience. I've done a couple festivals in Miami. What's your whole take on festivals? Was that really a thing when you started off, or not really?
Oh yeah, well, it was more called raves back then.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, same thing. Football stadiums, horse race tracks, Manhattan spaces like Manhattan Center. Always there would be big raves that would exist just like today at those at big arenas or whatever. It was back then it was all flyers, though. There was no internet,
social media.
So it was all, they would have like 15 different promotional companies with bus trips and hotels, and these flyers would be like a newspaper, 4 pages with all the info. You can camp, there's all sorts of I mean, thousands and thousands of people would, migrate, and it was like everybody knew each other. It was,
So you really had to know. You really had to be in the know. I feel like to even catch wind of these things. It sounds like.
yeah. I mean, you would just have to, like, let's say you went to a party, and you're at a rave at a stadium that you saw a flyer for, and you bought tickets, and then at that rave, there's 50 million other promoters handing out flyers for other events in the future. So everybody would always know. So if there's 3, 10, 50,000 people at this one party, and half of those people get a bunch of flyers for next events, the word of mouth part of it, everybody knows.
Okay. So what would you say was your, I don't know if we'll call it a breakout moment, but a moment where you were like, I'm here.
Yeah, it was.
What was your moment?
Probably 93 when I made it to Ministry of Sound. I was on my first tour, European tour, and I would go to different gigs and see people that I know in New York that are also under agencies and on tour. So I'd walk in and see James Christian at Ministry of Sound. What are you doing here? What are you doing here? So it was that was when it was like real. It became all right.
Have you had any experiences where you were really excited to run into somebody and then they just were not who you expected? I recently had that experience. And I was warned, and I was told you're gonna meet this individual. It's not what it seems, and this person couldn't have been more right. And have you ran into situations like that?
Sometimes it happens when someone's not having a good day.
Oh, yeah, that's a good point.
Or you caught them at a wrong time, and they'll brush you off, or like I met Dimitri from Delight in the early 90s, and I introduced myself to him, and I was like, hey, my name's Luis Martinez, I'm from New York as well. And he was like, I don't know no Luis Martinez, I was like, oh, all right, yeah, it happens.
Yeah.
You could be having a bad day, or you just be that guy.
Yeah. I think that's a good point to remember, that some of these artists we're seeing are touring. I don't know how some of them live, how they have lives, girlfriend in every other city. But I get tired watching these guys like posting, God, you're touring, you're out again at this city. And you're right. Probably this person just could have just been having a bad night.
I mean, back 15 years ago, Tiesto was booked every single day of the year. He would travel. When he traveled, that's when he would make music. He wouldn't be home. This guy was making almost 50 grand a gig, but he was in a different place every single day. So I couldn't fathom that. But when you get to that caliber, I mean,
do you think that's the price you pay, though, for fame?
Yeah.
I mean, there's always a give and take, and there's always a price to pay for something.
Yeah, I mean, look at actual performers like Madonna and people like that. Same thing with them. They're always different hotels. Could imagine.
Do you think the industry has gotten easier since you can do a lot of this from home now?
Mm-hmm.
So, for example, I did a project here, but we sent it somewhere else without having to meet the actual person.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think music's evolved in a good way like that, or do you feel that there's kind of, I don't want to say magic in the studio, but I always hope for this like big magical moment with an artist, and it's not like that anymore. It's here's the instrumentals, here's what you're doing, and then like they send it to management. So do you feel like some of that's gotten lost?
Yeah, I mean, that's still kind of like the protocol and, so to speak, chain of command of things. But also, like for me, I work with different producers all over the world on tracks, and
Okay.
we do it sometimes on Zoom, and we're able to work each other's computers right there on the screen, like we were in the same room. So that is one way that has changed things. And another way would be just a producer that you're doing work with in another part of the world, that you would send them all of what you've done. They would add their part, send it back to you, and back and forth until you get something right. But again, you have to be in the right mindset and vibe, because most of the time you can't make music, you have to feel it. So when you're working with someone somewhere else and you're on the screen with them and you're working, it is one thing. But a lot of times I've worked with producers where it's always sending you all of the tracks, and then you do your little thing, and pretty tedious stuff. But it really has changed the way of production in a sense.
Just being here, and the gentleman that rents his space to me, he told me how they used to do things back in the 80s and 90s, and when they had tapes they actual had to cut, and people were working in the studios 24/7, and I just could not imagine from an artist, for people that played instruments, to the sound engineers, how tedious that is. And I think now, being a little bit more involved in music, and I am by no means a professional, I'm not like well schooled, I'm not classically trained in anything, but the more I learn, I feel like producing is such a niche. And it takes years to acquire that niche. And it's funny because when you start listening to people, especially some of the newer upcoming folks, you can hear someone, you're like, that kid's got it, like that kid's got it, and then you're like, this kid, like, is this kid really doing it for the right reasons?
Right. Yeah. It's definitely changed for sure. The reel to reels and the cutting of the tape, they call it an edit block, and today you can see all of your tracks and all of your waves, and you can zoom in and click and chop on beat.
Yeah.
But in order to get that snare that you want to repeat, you would have to cut the tape, paste it, or tape it onto another piece and repeat that on and on and on. So you would be this high in tape by the end of the night, pieces of fragments of tapes. And just to make one build up that would take us 5-10 minutes to make, it would be 16 hours on an edit block.
And do you think it's gotten more cost affordable for people now to do this?
Yeah, I mean, the software is so much. I mean, just to buy those tapes was expensive. Or back then, all of the gear was all outboard gear, and it's very expensive. Now you could buy everything right in the computer.
Now, is there a certain software program you like to use?
Me, I use Digital Performer and Pro Tools.
Okay.
That's what I use. I've been using that since '87.
Been using it a while.
Yeah.
30 something odd years. So here in Tampa Bay, you put, I swear to God I saw this. Do you do the eye candy events?
No, that's Blake Blaze.
Oh, Blake Blaze.
Yes.
Okay.
He is affiliated with Eye Candy.
Okay, I thought I saw you on a flyer.
Yeah, with Blake,
Okay.
one time.
Okay.
Yeah, Blake will do, he'll get Eye Candy to do a meet and greet at certain venues, and we did it at my residency one night at Blur, which is why I have this mustache, by the way.
Do they make you have a mustache?
No, but 420 this year is on Saturday, and I'm going to be at Blur dressed as Cheech.
Oh, okay, that makes sense.
It probably makes sense
That
right
makes
now.
sense.
And
there's so much. Okay, let's talk about this weekend. This episode will probably air after 420, but there's so much.
Yeah.
There's so much going on. I mean, late night flights. They've got their first pop-up hair party of the year.
They got Kyle Kinch, I think, at that.
Yep.
That's going to be dope.
He's great.
Oh, yeah.
I would love, Kyle, if you're listening, I would love to have you come on.
Yeah.
You want to talk about a stand-up guy? He's always
solid.
He's always been nice whenever he sees me.
Solid. Yes, indeed.
very professional.
Yes.
Yeah, so he's playing.
You got Lance with the Warehouse.
Yep. Carson.
Yes.
Carson is doing his big 420 event.
Something at the Skyway during the day as well.
And then Ketone and Humble House, they're doing something in St. Pete too.
Oh, right on.
And then there's, I think, Tunnel Tampa's, like everybody's
That's right. Yep.
doing
That's
something.
right. And then me at Blur. It's everywhere. Yeah. It's kind of, it's a good day to do something.
Do you feel there are too many promoters?
No, just too many promoters that don't want to cross promote and work with each other.
So you think it's I don't know much about promoting. I don't know anything about promoting. I just go to the shows. So you think people need to work together?
Well, I mean, perfect example. 420. 5 different parties going on.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of coming together and doing something together where everybody can come, but now you segregated people. There's not enough of a scene for everybody to be scattered. Why don't you all get together, do something, and unify it? Everybody wants to throw parties, but they don't want to find out who's doing parties on the same date. If you guys communicate with each other, you would have a better result, because not everybody's doing something on the same freaking date.
That's really good advice.
I've never understood it.
Mm-hmm.
Communication is key.
Yeah. In everything.
Yeah. Yeah.
And everything in personal relationships at work.
Right.
So you touched a little bit on, relationships throughout your career. And I've always wanted to ask some of the artists this. You don't have to answer this if you don't want to. Have you found it challenging, when you were touring, staying faithful to someone or committing and being in a relationship? And, I'm sure temptation has to be out there. I mean, I've seen some of these women and I'm like, oh God, like I don't think I could date an artist.
I've slutted myself the whole time through, pretty much like an idiot, until I found out how powerful a woman is. So once I grew out of that and met my wife 12 years ago, I mean, it just happens. And a lot of people are always looking for that, searching, failing.
Yeah, sounds like me.
I stopped looking, is what I did. I just said, I'm not going to look anymore. And she came to me.
Yeah.
That's what happened with that. But yeah, I was bad. I was a bad boy. I broke a lot of hearts, and I'm old enough now to admit it and own it. But yeah, it's hard. But now, I mean, I want to be home. Yes, she's wonderful. I'm very fortunate.
And she supports the music,
Yes.
110%.
Yes.
I think that's great.
Yeah.
I think it's hard to find someone when you're in the arts, to find someone that understands the art and understands you. I mean, would you rather have somebody accept you, or would you rather have somebody understand you? If you had to pick one or the other, what would you pick?
She gets me.
She understands
she gets
you.
me. Yeah, because the other way, it never lasts. It's never going to be long term, because eventually, she goes to a lot of my parties. She knows everybody. And if I was to ever do anything, somebody would tell her. And that's just the bottom line. And same thing with her. But we are both never worried about that at all.
Yeah.
Nah, we're good.
That takes a lot of trust.
Yes.
What advice, I guess, do you have for just everybody out there right now that's trying to do this? Because there are so many people, and I talk about this a lot, that there is an influx. Everybody right now is trying to get in, whether it's podcasting, DJing, YouTubing, whatever. I mean, what advice would you have to those of us out there that are trying to create some type of art?
Just keep practicing. Always keep practicing, because you don't want to jump out there and start trying to do gigs when you don't have the experience or the knowledge of it just yet, because the first impression is always the one that stands out. So you want to make sure you're prepared. And these days, there's a lot to it, because you don't want to get music from sources that the quality is horrible, because people notice that too. You want to invest in your craft, even if it's a hobby. But if you're gonna do it right. Always practice, practice, because anybody can do it. Anybody can mix two songs. Anybody could blend eggs. But it's how you season and prep it that makes that fusion a delicacy.
Have you struggled and just had days where you're like, I don't want to do this anymore? What am I doing with my life? Is it time to throw in the towel?
I give up.
Yeah. How do you deal with that? How do you stay motivated and stay focused?
I turn myself off. So after my last gig of the week, I don't think about anything. Just focus on my wife, my kid, regular everyday life. I decompress, so to speak, for a good day, and then I go back at it. But I'm never on it for long periods of time. So I pace myself to do things. So I'm always active doing something else. So I've been doing this so long that it just kind of, it works. But it is strategic. Definitely spend time with the family.
Do you think and I've shared this before on the show, I struggle a lot where I see these female vocalists, they're posting a video themselves singing, but it's not raw vocals. I know it's been produced, I know it's been mixed and mastered, and they are acting like it's raw vocals. And I get really discouraged, right? Because I want to be I'm not doing this for fame, but I want to do vocals on EDM tracks. I'm fine. I am fine hiding in the studio behind a mic. But, it's hard when you see, somebody getting a leg up, or you're like, God, they're produced really well. And why doesn't anyone show their raw vocals? So
Right.
On my page, and I have a vocal coach I work with, we'll post a lot of our acoustic stuff just maybe the right person will be listening, and maybe I'll luck out. But what's your advice on not getting so focused in what other people are doing and being like, oh, I'm not getting there fast enough? Am I, sometimes I struggle with, am I putting stuff out there that people are gonna like, or do I need to remember I'm doing this for me?
Well, it's always, what makes an artist is how they stand out, how unique you are. You don't want to sound like anything every day. Everybody listens to music. Someone is going to like what you do. And once you hit your voice, you're going to realize, okay, this is for me. And you have to be versatile, but still be yourself. So that's all it really takes is the normality of it. Is you don't want to put stuff out that is mediocre. You don't want to put it on social. You don't want to do any of that, because again, you don't know who's listening. So people that are doing that type of stuff is just like when a DJ sees a video with another DJ on stage and nothing's plugged in, but their music is playing and they're doing this same thing.
Okay.
So you always want to portray yourself true. Like, you don't want to fake the funk.
Okay. Oh, I like that. You don't want to fake the funk. I like that phrase. And how do you deal, and you've probably experienced this a lot in your path and journey with music, with you really wanted something, you weren't chosen, you weren't picked up, you weren't selected. How'd you deal with all of that? Because this is not easy.
No. There's always somebody there better than you. Always. And as long as you give it your 100, that door may have closed, but another one's going to open. it's inevitable as long as you keep striding. It's there's always somebody better than you. The second you start thinking or believing that you're better or above the music is when it's over for you.
Yeah.
Stay humble and keep it moving. I mean, I get denied all the time. It's what it is.
Rejection's hard to deal with. Do you think women or men have it worse?
I think.
Or do you think it's equal opportunity?
I think it's equal opportunity. Men have an image, have a brand, and the same thing with women. Yeah, I think it's equal.
Okay. Where can we find you? We're gonna post your socials in the comments section. But where's your residency at? Where do you play? What events do you host? Like, let's let the viewers know where they can find you.
Yeah, we got some good stuff happening. Every Thursday and Friday, I'm at Blur nightclub in downtown Dunedin. Then from there, I just wherever I'm gigging, wherever people take me in or whatever the case. I do throw events. There is one April 28th in Sanford called Sunday Service. So we have a bunch of great local DJs, and headliner is Future Joy.
Okay.
Future Joy is an incredible performance. It's really, really cool. So this is in Sanford. It's a pool party. Cabanas, the whole nine. You could find it on Facebook. Just type in Sunday Service. Other than that, Facebook, DJ producer Luis Martinez, tracks and links, TrackSource, Beatport to check out my releases.
Okay.
I have about 62 releases out, 14 or 15 different labels.
Oh, wow.
And it's just Luis Martinez and the letters US for United States. Because there's another Luis Martinez in Italy. So if it gets confused.
Like a lot of Luis.
Oh, my goodness. It's like John
name.
Smith. But there's this one guy, producer, same spelling as me, but without the US. And sometimes when record labels would release my track on their label, they would forget the US and it would end up on his thing.
How funny. Well,
he would go and rant and rave till you change it. Oh, my goodness. So, yes, Luis Martinez, US.
Okay.
I don't want that guy out. I don't want no problems.
Any other words of wisdom for people tuning in?
Peace, love, unity, respect. Love one another.
I like that. Well, I want to thank you so much for taking the time, driving down here, coming to chat with me.
My pleasure.
And I'm excited we finally got to meet.
Yes, indeed. And I want to see if we get you in the studio. I want to check you out, girlfriend.
Yeah. All right. We'll have to make a date out of it.
Indeed.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you.